Present from Uganda around art, pop culture, and social movements in Africa. Let's give him a round of applause.
But I'm also an editorial cartoonist with a national newspaper. I only have 20 minutes to speak about my topic, which is quite a heavy one. A friend advised me that he had devised a method. Whenever he was invited to speak and was given a few minutes, he had small pieces of sweets that he would put in the mouth, and he knew that by 15 minutes they would have dissolved, and that's when he would stop. But then one time, he spoke and spoke for almost an hour, and the sweet was not dissolving. That's when he realized, when he pulled it out, that he had put a button instead of a sweet. I had to make sure that I put a sweet, not a button, and it started dissolving. Now, being in this place is quite nostalgic talking about this particular topic. I studied in Tanzania for 2 years, just next door there in Mosh. I had intended to become a priest, but God thought otherwise. Yeah, but why this brings back particular memories at this occasion, I'm talking about art, pop culture, and social movements, which I'm not going to go into defining. It reminds me of moments at the seminary. Every evening after prayers, the priest would communicate something. But at times, some of the communications, it was a seminary, some of the communications they would make were not really favorable. We didn't want to hear what they were telling us. So we had developed a habit that whenever they communicated something we did not want to hear, or that we felt was unfair, we would end with a particular song, and that was "We Shall Overcome." And we would sing it so loud. The priest was uncomfortable behind, because they would sit behind and would say, "We shall overcome someday." And the priest would be uncomfortable, but he would have to join us because we were singing a Catholic hymn. But at the same time, while singing the Catholic hymn, we knew that the message was passed across, and that they could not ban the hymn. At the same time, they could not stop us from singing it. Music, as one of the forms of art, has always been one of the ways of pushing back to power, one of the ways of communicating certain messages, especially in spaces where it is a bit unsafe to engage with those with power. And the seminary was that kind of space. But we have seen music used by different kinds of people. The Negro spirituals, this was one of the ways in which the slaves would express their feelings about the pain that they were going through, how they would give themselves hope, because music is as well therapeutic. They always had songs that they sang. Those from Zimbabwe who tell us about the Chimrenga music. Coming from Uganda, I remember the songs that were sung by the Museveni guerrillas in the 80s when we were still young. I've only seen one president in life, but that is, it's a story of stability in Uganda. I recall in childhood how we would sing along the songs of the rebels. One of them, Ambam 7, I think any Ugandan in the room would recall these songs. Of course, today they are irritating to hear. But it always gave us a certain kind of attachment with those that call themselves liberators. It always, it was an easy way of communicating to the people, an easy way of building solidarity, an easy way of mobilizing the community into accepting a particular message. We saw it used in the South African struggles. Many of us, at least in Uganda, we got to know and to be concerned about what was happening in South Africa through music. For instance, that of Chaka Chaka, Let Me Be Free, I Cry for Freedom. The songs would be disguised as though she was singing about an oppressive husband, but it would be clear that she was communicating to someone else. The songs of Miriam Makeba, songs of Pat Shange, We Miss You Manelo, because it was Manelo, but we would know that it's Mandela, not really Manelo. And even a child from a ghetto in Uganda would sing along that song, even if some did not really know what it was about. But you would start by being attracted to the music, and then you would ask, but what is this about? Recently, I was watching on YouTube a song by this song, Joanna Give Me Hope. Joanna Give Me Hope was such a hit in many places. Someone was saying that, oh, I had never listened to the lyrics of this song. I've always been dancing along. I didn't know that it was such a serious song. But everyone would immediately stand up when they heard Joanna Give Me Hope. The music of Lucky Dube, prisoner, slave, in whatever forms that they were disguised, the message was quite clear. I remember where I come from in southern Uganda. Deep in the village there, at a wedding, when the music of Lucky Dube played, you knew that it was going to be chaos at the wedding. You knew that there was going to be a rampage, people breaking tree branches and jumping while raising them. Because the immediate message that they got was that this was music about freedom, music about peace. Musicians always have found a way of negotiating territories that are unsafe, of communicating messages that would otherwise be difficult to communicate. And it has an effect of disarming the oppressors, disarming those that you're singing about. Sometimes before they know it, they have already joined into dancing to the song, or they do not want to seem odd by not being part of the berry-making group. Now that is for music, but we have also seen it growing across other kinds of art. Satire of late has become a very important form of expression of dissent. Humor in different forms. We see young people circulating memes, or we see it in comedy, we see it in cartoons. Being a cartoonist, I know the advantages that come with using humor in resistance. One is that you easily mobilize support. So many people will come to laugh, but in the process of laughing, the message is communicated. We live in societies, at least in many African countries, where people are reluctant to read. We see these so many reports that are released. The other day when we were listening to statistics about democracy, freedom in Africa, many of us were asking, where are these reports? They're available online, but we are bombarded with so much information every day that we do not have time for reading all that. But within a cartoon, I'm able to summarize 1,000 words or almost a book. Even young people that do not want to read, they'll come to laugh. They'll come to a cartoon to laugh. And in the process, the message is communicated. With these cartoons, people have been able to lampoon, people have been able to ridicule oppressors, people have been able to demystify oppressors by pulling them down to be laughed at. In the process, they have equipped masses, they have equipped them with some sort of strength where they feared that this is a taboo topic. Then they would start talking. Cartoons direct debates, they direct discussions. Someone asked me, but why would you draw a cartoon of a president? Don't you have any fear drawing about it? Don't you fear being sued? And I told them that with cartoons, we have much more license than those who communicate with text. One, except if the president was arbitrary, if government was arbitrary in dealing with me, they cannot prove that I've drawn the president. If anyone claims that the cartoon I've drawn is of the president, the burden of proof is on them, it's not on me. But if it looks like them, I'll say maybe that's just mere coincidence. Yeah, well, I understand that in some contexts, some leaders have gotten around that by banning cartoons altogether. In Rwanda, I'm not quite sure, but I've heard that it's not allowed to draw cartoons of the president, ridicule the president in cartoons. Maybe our brother there will tell us. that I've heard of such a law. But even if that happens, there will always be ways of going around. There will always be ways of creating other avenues of communication. And in this creativity that we see in art, young people do not give up. We have seen topics that have traditionally not been discussed anywhere, which today we have found various other avenues of talking about them. Now recently, I would use a case as I come to the end of my speech. I spearheaded a protest, an online protest about service delivery in Uganda. We called them exhibitions, and they were mostly on Twitter and maybe even on Facebook. So in this protest, I just called upon people to take pictures. The first was, we called it the Kampala Pothole Exhibition. So I mobilized people to take photos and exhibit them online. Just take a photo of a pothole wherever you find it in Kampala and tweet it. The second phase within the exhibition was to satirize those pictures. And I was amazed by what young people did with the photos. There was one of the president in a boat sailing on a pothole, another of a Titanic on a pothole. There is a young man who assigned himself the role of taking the president around the city, but simply by photoshopping his picture into potholes. Wherever there would be a pothole, the president would be there standing, looking at the pothole, or standing in the pothole. Some people would think that these are just gestures to laugh about, and that's it. But in the process, you're making power uncomfortable. Yes. You're making them feel you don't want them to get away with oppressing you with so much ease. Within a short time, we got so many responses. We got responses from Kampala City Council officials, responses from Parliament. The president released some money to fix potholes. Of course, the part of the story that I will not tell is that the potholes were filled with soil. Yes, but as I end, of course, one of the challenges of using such methods is that some people will simply laugh about the cartoons, they'll just be entertained by the music, they laugh about the memes, and life goes on. Of course, this added to the other fact that today there is so much information that everything seems to be in a flux. There is always a fleeting wide array of information every day that the attention span is quite short. That if you do not struggle so much to remain active and visible, those who are on the other side will bombard the public with a lot of more information to distract them. So within that distraction, I think we have to devise means of ensuring that the message that we are sending across can persistently and consistently remain. I thank you so much.
Thank you once again for our three presenters, Dikeleti Mokwena, Inaim Eltiab, and Jimmy Spice Ntonga. Let's thank them again for the three fantastic presentations they've made. We have now earned our tea break, and we'll do so for the next 15 minutes. And when we come back, we will get into the masterclass on movement building. That will feature now Vitali, Arif Noor, Daniel Odinga, and Grace Gitao. For now, it's break tea for the next 15 minutes. Please be back in 15. Thank you.